Good morning. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. Before we start, I've always wanted to do this. Would the owner of a silver Lexus parked immediately out front of the sanctuary retrieve your car? I don't know if it's anybody in the sanctuary or someone else, but there it is. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. My name is Tony Fisher. I serve this congregation as its minister. My joy this morning is to lift up with gladness our membership committee. Those are the folks who welcome you into the congregation, are there at the table, are meeting you and greeting you as you come in, as you spend your first weeks here getting to know you. And keep in touch with you as you sort of enter into congregational life. Our chair, John Pipkin, was standing out. Where's John? Is he in the sanctuary? No, he's out there standing this morning. Joan Benz, Nancy Carroll, Martin Parks, Ginny Rux, Michael Rux, Patsy Sachs, David Sleeper, Betty Walsh, Meade Summers, and it includes our congregational administrator, Anna Riazzi. Such a great group of people, very vibrant committee. And we're very fortunate as a congregation to have them working on our behalf and welcoming everyone who's new through our doors. So thank you to the membership committee this morning. It's also my joy to welcome Kathy Somers, here to be our worship associate today.
Good morning. Thank you, Tony. We're so glad you've joined us, whether you're here in the sanctuary or watching us on Facebook Live, at home, or sitting out on our pavilion. Please know that you're always welcome here. We are a welcoming congregation, freely seeking intellectual and spiritual growth. We strive to create a larger community of peace, justice, and love. Here we learn and grow together and try to live our values out in public. If you're new to our congregation, we're especially grateful that you've found us. Our hope is to make you feel welcome and help you find ways to connect. And now, let's take a deep breath and settle ourselves into this time of worship with the morning's prelude.
You are welcome here. If you are straight, gay, lesbian, intersexual, or asexual, or resist labels altogether, you are welcome here. If you're transgender, non-binary, genderqueer, or cisgender, you are whole and welcome here. If you're confused about your sexuality, have questions, struggle in an intimate relationship, or struggle because you're not in an intimate relationship, you are whole and welcome here. If you had an abortion or an unintended pregnancy, given up a child, had a miscarriage, have AIDS or HIV, struggle with infertility or sexual dysfunction, you are whole and welcome here. If you've been the victim of sexual abuse, sexual harassment, or sexual assault, you are whole and welcome here. If you've made sexual decisions or have had behaviors that you regret, you are whole and welcome here. Your sexuality is holy and sacred and an integral part of who you are. You are whole and welcome here. As Unitarian Universalists, we will side with you, love you, and fight for your rights. We seek to create a world where sexuality and sexual diversity is celebrated with wholeness and integrity, where sexual choice is a right granted by the state. You are all welcome here. Let's join together in our chalice lighting. You'll see on the screen or on your order of service. May this flame stir our hearts and remind us of our mission to be truly welcoming, to grow in mind and spirit, and to widen the circle of peace, justice, and love. And let's rise as you're willing and able to join in singing our opening hymn, Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky. It's number 301, and the gray hymnal, the words will also be on the screen, and Sean will be leading us.
Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores while spirits fly, over the ocean, over the land, our faith a quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky, children born and all shall die. Life's the time in between to follow a star, to build a dream. Touch the earth, reach the sky, hug the laughter, feel the cry. May we see where we can give, for this is what it means to live.
So I have a story to share with you this morning, but this morning I also wanted to recognize, as we're talking about reproductive justice, a group of people who are members of this congregation and active in the reproductive justice movement, especially active in Planned Parenthood here in Collier County. There's a number of folks here that have been involved. I'll mention them, and then I'll ask if anybody else has been involved anywhere else. But I want to honor Dina Sewell, and if you're here, please rise, and if you're willing. Harriet Lancaster, Karen Schmidt, Jane Graham, Kathy Rippin, Ann Fisher, who's down teaching, Jody Bisogno, Jennifer Dant, Barbara Giolotto, and Sandy Baldwin. And I know that there are escorts here who have helped at the Planned Parenthood Center. I know Steve Espinoza down the hall, Janet Hoffman, Georgia Hopeful. Anyone else in the congregation that's helped that wishes to be recognized? Marilyn and Kathy, please stand. Yes, and thank you all very much for your service. So my story this morning comes from Darcy Baxter, currently a Unitarian Universalist minister serving Stanislaus County in California near Modesto. Prior to becoming a UU minister, Darcy worked as a counselor on an abortion hotline for the National Abortion Federation. So she tells this great story of one particular call. I know this is going to sound crazy, Darcy said into the phone, but it's the only thing I can think of right now. There's a Unitarian Universalist church 100 miles from you. Give them a call. Now, this was not the typical advice given to women calling the National Abortion Hotline. Melissa, the name of the person the name she's given to this person, lived in a big Midwestern state. She had very little money, 2 children, and an unplanned pregnancy. The closest abortion provider was over 500 miles away. And even though Melissa was enrolled in Medicaid, both federal and local governments forbade using tax dollars for abortion services. Things were looking pretty bad. And in that moment of desperation, a moment all too common among Darcy's hotline experiences, she told Melissa to find that church. I'm really not kidding, she said on the phone. Tell them you just talked to this abortion hotline and the counselor you spoke to was Unitarian and told you to call. It sounds crazy, but this church is not like a lot of other churches. It's part of a tradition that we support women in your situation. Maybe there's a doctor in the congregation. Maybe there's someone in the congregation who knows someone else. Later on, when she thought about that call and her reaction, Darcy realized that she hadn't thought twice about sending Melissa to the closest UU congregation. In the midst of all the culture wars around abortion, she didn't think twice about urging Melissa to go to church. Why? Darcy realized she hadn't thought twice because church was the only place her parents could send her to get a high-quality, comprehensive sexuality education. She hadn't thought twice because while she was growing up, her minister told stories of being part of the clergy consultation service on abortion, a pre-Roe v. Wade network of Protestant and Jewish clergy who connected women with safe abortion providers. She hadn't thought twice because Unitarian Universalists, Jews, and Buddhists have been even more supportive of legal abortion than those who identify as religiously unaffiliated. She hadn't thought twice because the Roe v. Wade legal case was forged in the basement of the First Unitarian Church in Dallas, Texas. After she hung up the phone, another counselor peered over her cubicle divider and looked at Darcy kind of strangely. Did you just send that woman to a church to get help with an abortion? Yes, Darcy said. Yes, I did. Let's join in singing our centering hymn, How Could Anyone? Please remain seated. It's number 1053 in the Teal hymnal. The words will be on your screen.
Tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
We come together each week because of and in spite of all the things that happen in our lives, all those joys and sorrows we experience in our days and hours. We're brought together by the desire for community to share with one another our lives. This is an opportunity in our service for you to be able to share something personal of your days. If you have something you'd like to share with the congregation, I hope you'll raise your hand and I will bring you the microphone. Share briefly what's in your heart and your name as well, joys and sorrows. First joy, I should say, is that Ann Roberts has been with us this morning playing the piano in the first part of the service. We're so grateful for you and what you bring to us in many different ways. Anyone with joys and sorrows?
I'm Roy Stewie. A joy is that we woke up this morning and it was Sunday and we get to come here. That's a great joy for Alan and I every Sunday morning. Another joy for me is that on Wednesday I'll be packing weekend meals. But I want to share a concern about that. And that is that it's not fully funded yet. This is an incredibly worthwhile and important program. Please see what you can do.
Thanks, Roy.
I want to say kudos to Roy because I still haven't written my check. But I will do it.
Well, that's a sorrow. Okay, yeah.
Well, we head north this week, and we miss this congregation terribly when we go. And we just wanted to say goodbye.
And goodbye, farewell until next year. But we know you have a great congregation up north that supports you as well. And for anyone who's sort of taking off in the next week or two for northern lands, then we wish you well and safe passage back to us in the fall.
This weekend is I would say a mystical weekend. Yesterday, I received a request for friendship from Facebook. The typical request for friendship. And I was stunned when I saw who it was from. It was from Flo Beckler. Magical and mystical.
For those of you who aren't aware or don't know Flo passed away a bit earlier this year, and obviously still sending messages to us. Anyone else? Yes.
So my husband kind of pushed me to this. I'm the very proud mother of Jonathan, who got tenure Thursday.
Well, congratulations for that.
That was fishing under flow.
Yeah. Anyone else? As we consider all those things that have been shared and certainly all that has been left unspoken this morning, we center ourselves into a time of meditation. here in this space made sacred by our presence. Let us give ourselves over to the spirit of the moment and find the sacred oneness which binds us all together. We join in a desire for companionship on this life's journey, to find comfort in sharing our joys and sorrows, to find meaning, to seek equality and justice, recognizing and affirming the dignity and worth of each and every person here, regardless of who we are, where we're from, who we love, how many things we have. In that same breath, we affirm now and always that each of us is a moral agent with the capacity, right, and responsibility to make decisions about our own bodies, our own lives. In these perilous times, we pray for the well-being of anyone who lacks access to health care and lament the conditions that would cause them to choose between the basic necessities of life and the health services that they need. We offer our love and support to those who find themselves in difficult situations with difficult choices to make. Spirit of love, may we be inspired by our values and our principles in our continuing work for justice, so that no barrier of status or income divides us. Let us remember, renew, and relive the taste of hard-won struggles and difficult defeats in the continuing search for justice. We hope that the lessons and guidance of the past that will lead us towards the promise of a more just and equitable future remain steady in our hearts. In this time of shared silence, I hope you'll bring your deep hopes for your life, for the lives of those you cherish, and for all who dwell together in this challenging world to the fore. Let's share some time in silence.
Thank you, Anne. That was lovely. We have so many gifted artists in this community. As Tony mentioned earlier, Reverend Darcy Baxter serves the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Stanislaus County, California. The following is an excerpt from an article she wrote for UU World magazine, spring 2013. The reproductive justice movement was created by a coalition of women of color to promote the right of all women to have children, not to have children, and to raise their children in safe and healthy environments. In 1984, the National Black Women's Health Project was founded with two goals: to more effectively address reproductive health issues in African American communities, and to advocate within the mainstream, predominantly white, pro-choice movement for a broader agenda that includes concerns of women of color. Over the next 10 years, other women of color created reproductive justice organizations, such as the National Latina Health Organization, the Native American Women's Health Education Resource Center, and Asians and Pacific Islanders for Reproductive Health. Following the 1994 International Conference on Population and Development in Cairo, Egypt, the women involved with these organizations coined the term reproductive justice to name their work, ideas, and aspirations. In 1997, the Sister Song Women of Color Reproductive Justice Collective was formed. There'll be a quiz afterwards with these names. Bringing together 16 organizations advocating for the reproductive and sexual health of women of color. Sister Song has been instrumental in promoting reproductive justice and in building support for it as a conceptual framework and movement-building political strategy. Reproductive justice emphasizes that everything is connected and therefore insists we refuse to isolate or pit important social issues against each other. Instead, reproductive justice advances those rights across the interdependent web of social justice issues. As the advocacy group Forward Together puts it in their Strong Families initiative, reproductive justice calls on us to work toward a world where every person and family has the rights, recognition, and resources to make decisions about their gender, their bodies, and their sexuality, where every person, family, and community has what they need to flourish. And that last paragraph is so vivid. I had to read it twice, so I'm going to read it a second time for you. Their Strong Families initiative, reproductive justice calls on us to work towards a world where every person and family has the rights, recognition, and resources to make decisions about their gender, their bodies, and their sexuality, where every person, family, and community has what they need to flourish.
Early in the morning she rises. The woman's work is never done. And it's not because she doesn't try. She's fighting a battle with no one on her side. Oh, she rises up in the morning and she works till way past dusk. The woman better slow down, or she's gonna come down hard. Early in the morning she rises. The woman's work is never done.
Late Thursday evening, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a law banning abortions in the state after 6 weeks, a time before many individuals might even know that they're pregnant. This new law, not unexpected in today's political climate, was nonetheless a blow to reasonable people, and especially to those of childbearing age whose choices for reproductive health care have now been severely limited. Before I go any further, I do want to acknowledge that within this room there are a multitude of experiences and feelings about abortion and reproductive rights. For some, it might seem out of place to be talking about abortion on a Sunday morning, but the reality that this is an issue of conscience and therefore a religious issue. Certainly those who brought us these curbs on reproductive rights see it as a religious issue. That was made abundantly clear last year when our state governor chose to sign and openly celebrate last year's restrictive abortion legislation in an evangelical church with full press coverage. And although my thoughts this morning zero in on these recent restrictions, it's important to remember that the attacks on reproductive health care have been much broader. As Kathy just shared a few minutes ago and repeated what I'm about to repeat again, reproductive justice calls on us to work towards a world where every person and family has the rights, recognition, and resources to make decisions about their gender, their bodies, and their sexuality. The forum held here 2 weeks ago with Daniel Shaw of GLSEN and 2 of his students illustrated that reproductive justice includes, among other things, allowing access to gender care and quality sexuality education, and that access too is being severely, aggressively limited. All that said, I want to share why I believe that these recent laws are unconstitutional, and also to delineate clearly why they go against our Unitarian Universalist beliefs and values. These are unjust laws without compassion that undermine a woman's equality and moral agency and tend to have the greatest negative impact on economically disadvantaged women. Unitarian Universalists have long stood for the right of conscience and for building justice, equity, and compassion in our human relations. We also believe in the importance of education and science and the use of reason. In my own family, where Unitarian Universalist roots are deep, my role models have, by word and deed, tried as best they could to live into those values. My grandmother, Geraldine Howarth Fisher, a college graduate, was a suffragette and a strong believer in women's rights, including women's reproductive rights. She supported local organizations that provided free health care to pregnant women, support for unwed mothers, and when abortion became legal in Massachusetts, the inclusion of abortion as one option for women facing unwanted pregnancies. Like all good people, Unitarian Universalists believe that life is a blessing, and that when a new life is brought into the world by choice and out of love, it is a great reason to celebrate. When parenthood is forced upon a woman by the power of the state against her own conscience, however, it is irresponsible, especially when the state offers little or no support for the ongoing life of that child. Thus, the vast majority of Unitarian Universalists believe in a woman's moral agency to make choices that affect her own body, including the option of abortion. As a faith tradition, we have a strong theological grounding to advocate for reproductive justice, given our concern for life, dignity, conscience, and discernment, interdependence, and human rights. Indeed, these values have called us into the public sphere as an organization for more than 50 years, beginning in 1963, 2 years after the merger of the Unitarian Church of America and the American Universalist Church of America and the American Unitarian Association. The combined UUA issued their first resolution supporting abortion as an option, and since that time has issued numerous resolutions supporting the right to abortion and in support of compassionate reproductive health care. We are a non-creedal tradition that affirms and promotes 7 ethical principles that bind us together, each one touching on this issue. Our first principle honors the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Upholding someone's dignity means trusting their choices about health, including when that choice is to have an abortion. Respecting someone's humanity means recognizing their autonomy over their own life. Our faith thus requires us to uphold the dignity and autonomy of every individual and treat them with love and compassion. The Florida abortion laws are an inappropriate overreach of the governor and legislature imposing in law a particular religious viewpoint that limits the rights of conscience and those who hold other views. As we value religious freedom and pluralism, we are therefore called to reject these laws and to help dismantle them. We cannot abide a theocracy. The second principle of our faith calls for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. There is no justice or equity when a small group of politicians decide that they know best when people should have children. There is no compassion when politicians can force you to have children and then take no interest in their well-being after birth. The law does provide some exceptions for rape and incest, but only if the case is fully documented, and we fully understand that for unfortunate reasons, many such cases are not reported. Together, our third principle, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, and our fourth principle, that we promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, underscore our traditional trust in the individual within the context of community to learn and grow, discovering their deepest values and finding their own spiritual path towards wholeness, to make their own judgments as to how to live those values in relationship with each other and out in the world. Our fifth principle, a firm commitment to the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, mirrors the ideal in this country which says that we believe in the freedom of belief granted by the First Amendment of the Constitution. Unitarian Universalists see strong support the separation of church and state, recognizing that in this nation there is a plurality of religious traditions, and that the First Amendment should guarantee that will be the case continuing forward. We see the current wave of anti-abortion legislation as an affront to the freedom of religion, the freedom of choice, the freedom of conscience. The restrictions on reproductive health care, something that should be a private concern between a woman, her doctor, and her beliefs, are clearly based in one particular religious viewpoint and should not become rule for all other religious viewpoints who may disagree. The decision to have an abortion should be left to an individual or couple in consultation with their own deeply held religious beliefs and not subject to the beliefs of others. Last year, leading up to the vote on the 15-week abortion ban, there was a curious consistency among proponents of HB 5, the new law. And in the news and in the legislative record, you would find language, consistent language, that said, we all know that life begins at conception. But that's certainly not a universally held belief. There are religious viewpoints that hold that life doesn't begin until the infant's first breath outside the womb. And there are viewpoints that say that life does not begin or end, but is carried always in the seeds within our bodies. Roe versus Wade was based on fetal viability. This year's 6-week ban, otherwise known as the heartbeat bill, is based roughly on a time when a fetal heartbeat might be detected, but even then, doctors did not fully agree on what it is that's being heard and whether it could be claimed to be a fully formed heart, and certainly not a heart that could beat on its own outside the mother's womb. And the question really is not which of these time frames is correct. That's something that could be argued ad infinitum. The truth really is that an individual must be able to take all these possibilities into account and decide for themselves what choices to make within the context of their own deeply held beliefs and values, and in consultation with their own support systems. Our sixth principle, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, requires us to consider what it will take to build a world that is fair and just. And consider again how closely this aligns with the quote from Darcy Baxter, calling us to work towards a world where every person and family has those rights, those recognitions, and those resources to make decisions on their own. Across the United States, and especially here in Florida, we seem to be moving away from this ideal. And a clear example of this is the racism within our own healthcare system. Since the Supreme Court overturned the constitutional protection for abortion access, nearly half the country's states have made abortion illegal to some degree or are poised to do so. Yet, as the Human Rights Watch recently reported, abortion is a form of health care needed more frequently by women of color in the United States. Abortion restrictions like those enacted here in Florida have as a secondary goal the shutting down of just the kind of clinic that economically disadvantaged individuals rely on, which compounds the economic, social, and geographic barriers to health care, including contraception, for people already pushed to the margins. To add on to that, insult to industry, women of color are more likely to be uninsured and therefore lack access to affordable and comprehensive health care coverage. And the situation gets worse in states like Florida that have an expanded Medicaid, an important program that could extend affordable health care coverage to a greater number of low-income people. Unitarian Universalists believe in comprehensive sexuality education, and we have created a lifelong learning curriculum entitled Our Whole Lives, or OWL, to provide members, young and old, with the information they need to make smart, responsible, ethical choices in their lives and in their relationships, far beyond just the reproductive facts, sexual hygiene, and pregnancy prevention. This curriculum calls for a spiritual grounding, as well as offering reflections on relationships, cultural pressure, and gender difference. The curriculum also underscores the value of community in the formation of a strong moral approach to life. We believe and we teach that individuals have moral agency over what happens to their own bodies, and unfortunately, currently, the state of Florida has overstepped the bounds of separation of church and state in telling us that this is not the case. As Unitarian Universalists, we value the guidance of science and reason and believe that our religious beliefs align with what is known about the world. In keeping with science, many Unitarian Universalists understand that while there is no uniform gestation period that can be defined clearly, it occurs roughly between 23 and 25 weeks. Only then should there be any state conversation about protecting human life. And until then, there needs to be understanding and compassion around the complexities of individual circumstance, and there should be leeway for an individual to bring to bear all the religious, moral, family, and community resources they have to make their own choice. As a minister, I make myself available for short-term counseling, not only for members of this congregation, but for anyone who shows up at our door. As Darcy Baxter's story mentioned, prior to Roe v. Wade, many Unitarian Universalist ministers were part of an interfaith network that counseled women or helped get them counseling and safe abortions when the circumstances merited. It is a legacy and a role that I would not shy away from if approached, to be a compassionate listener and guide for anyone in need. But in these times, how am I to counsel someone who discovered that their fetus has profound physical issues and understandably does not wish to bring that child into the world only to have it suffer? What do I say to a working single mother doing her best to raise 3 children, one of whom is autistic, who finds her birth control has failed? Do we ask her to take time off from work to have a 4th child she cannot afford, either emotionally or financially? Having created this law despite public opinion, will the state now help share the emotional and economic burdens that it has imposed? While not specifically targeting clergy, I believe the new Florida statutes unlawfully conflict with the minister's right to freely exercise their faith and their ability to provide full and compassionate counseling for individuals or couples approaching them with questions concerning pregnancy. Melissa, the woman in Darcy Baxter's story, technically had the right to legal abortion in her state. But for Melissa and many like her, there is little or no community enabling and supporting this kind of a decision. There is no we within which this me can flourish. And so we end our journey through our 7 principles with the idea of our interdependence, an idea that we are in this together and must support each other on the journey. As Darcy Baxter writes, while Melissa theoretically had a right, in practice, she did not have access to the means that could make that right a reality. Reproductive justice is both a concept and a movement that calls on us to focus on a woman's lived realities and the complex, interdependent web of circumstances that must exist for her to exercise what we call rights. So my goal today was to try to explain reproductive justice within the context of our values and principles, and to share my belief that someone who is pregnant has the moral agency and the right to make choices about their own life and their own body, and I hope I've been able to do that clearly. I think we all believe that reproduction is a sacred responsibility, and well-considered decisions to have children, to not have children, or to end a pregnancy can be equally moral. And so I believe that our job as a people of faith is threefold. First, to strongly support the role of the parent or nurturer and the healthy growth of children in a safe, sustainable, and nurturing community like this one. Second, to create a loving, justice-seeking community where there is no place for shame, judgment, or stigma when it comes to diverse identities or reproductive decisions and journeys. And third, to advocate for equitable access to the full spectrum of comprehensive reproductive health care as a moral and social good, supporting the fulfillment of reproductive moral agency and the opportunity for all people to flourish. This is a difficult time when we seem to be losing ground. But we UUs also believe the moral arc of the universe is long, and there's still a couple of avenues available to us, or soon to be available to us for action. As you might expect, a petition drive is already in the works for an amendment to protect reproductive rights and abortion in Florida. The polling research shows that support for such a petition could be as high as 70% across party lines. The second avenue is for this congregation to consider becoming part of a network of congregations in Florida that are committed to equity, dignity, and holistic well-being for all people. One such network is the Spiritual Alliance of Communities for Reproductive Dignity, an organization that understands that if we are to fully live our commitment to human flourishing, we must recognize that reproductive issues are integral to social justice and cannot be separated from our own sphere of moral concern. for us to back away quietly and yield the moral ground to a minority who do not represent the will of the people would be a travesty of our ethics and our values. My hope is that I have provided you with at least enough grounding in all of our UU values to pick up a pen or a banner and fight for reproductive rights until justice is won. Thank you.
As we take time to reflect on today's words and music, let's also take time to show our gratitude for this community and all that it does. The morning's offering will be gratefully received. Please consider sending a contribution today. The information you need is on the screen. And now we'll have the offertory music.
I have a voice, started out as a whisper, turned into a scream, made a beautiful noise, shoulder to shoulder marching in the street. When you're all alone, it's a quiet breeze, but when you band together, it's a choir of thunder and rain. Now we have a choice, 'cause I have a voice. I'm not living to die. Don't stand in a wasteland, look at me in the eye. Stop living a lie and stand up next to me. You gotta put one foot in front of another with a hand in a hand holding on to each other. Go on and rejoice, 'cause you have a voice. It is loud, it is clear, it's stronger than your fear. It's believing you belong, it's for calling out the wrong. From the silence of my sisters to the violence of my brother, we can rage against the river, feel the pain of another. I have a voice. I have a voice, and I let it speak for the ones who aren't yet running free. It's killing me. No one is saying what we need to hear. I will not let silence win, not when I see all the pain our people are in. There's no other choice, 'cause I have a voice. It is loud, it is clear, it is stronger than your fear. It's believing you belong, it's for calling out the wrong. From my mouths of our mothers to the lips of our daughters, we can dream like our brothers, speaking loud like our fathers. We can heal. Do you hear us? Can you hear us now? I have a voice, started out as a whisper, turned into a scream, made a beautiful noise, shoulder to shoulder marching in the street. When you're all alone, it's a quiet breeze, but when you stand together, it's a choir of thunder and rain. Now we have a choice, 'cause I have a voice. Now we have a choice, 'cause I have a voice. Now we have a choice, 'cause I have a voice.
Now we have a few reminders of what's happening this week at UUGN before we sing again. There's a great forum today at 11:30 after the service with our own Jody Bisogno and Jennifer Dant, staff members of Youth Haven, our local residential facility for children at risk. This is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, so it's a great time to learn about this effective organization that's been providing home, hope, and healing to abused and neglected children and teens in Southwest Florida since 1972. Also today after the service, there'll be reception in the Menaker Foyer for the opening of an exhibit of copper sculptures by Lino Gnezda, who passed away in 2018, leaving an incredible story and some powerful art. The exhibit will run through the rest of this month. And if you can't come to the reception, I advise you to go look at it because it really is very, very moving and powerful. Third, the next installment of our Wonderful Stories from You series is set for Wednesday, April 19th. Come and enjoy a new and unpredictable mix of 5 storytellers from our UU community and beyond. If you haven't yet been to one of these storytelling sessions, you've been missing a lot. Come and enjoy refreshments at 6:30 and stories following at 7. Now rise as you are willing. Oh.
Sorry. On the pavilion during coffee hour, the UU Ukes are going to be doing a brief performance, so please listen if you can. Thanks.
Okay, the final hymn, if you're willing and able to join us in singing the closing hymn, which is We Laugh, We Cry, number 354 in the gray hymnal, and the words will also be on the screen. We'll sing 1, 2, and 4.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. Our child is born among us, and we feel a special glow. We see time and the journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of this child, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a time to be together. And with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth, and we believe that growing is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a joy being together. And in our search for peace, may we finally see, even to question truly is an answer.
Seek for the spirit of life that is within you, that you might know more fully its power and strength. Seek for the spirit of life that surrounds you, that you might know more fully its connection to you. Seek for the spirit of life that is within others, that you might enter more fully into the community that embraces us this day and every day. Go in peace. Go in love. Have a wonderful day.